Hi, it's Deborah Hamilton, and thank you so much for coming to the MAP Plan community during COVID. We are so grateful you're here. I see a few familiar faces, and I know that this recording is listened to by so many. So I'm so grateful you're here. And one night, I hope you can make it here and introduce yourself. But tonight, we're going to talk about really moving with pets because, quite frankly, I am moving from New York to North Carolina, and so many things went haywire that I said, this is the perfect night to do the MAP plan, to talk to everyone about why it is you need to have a plan and you need to have redundancy in your plan because things happen while you're busy making plans. I always say that God always laughs when you make a plan. The angels laugh when you make a plan because they will stick a little stick in your wheel just to make sure you understand that you need to pivot and you need to have alternatives and redundancy. So let's start first with what the MAP stands for. If you've been here before, you know, but it's always worth repeating because everybody needs to know why. Hi, Kieran, how are you? I'm just bringing us up to date. And Sally's here as well. The MAP plan starts with making a plan. So you have to actually sit down and make a plan of how you want your dogs and cats and birds and horses and reptiles taken care of. Because if it's in your head, it's of no use to anyone else. So you have to write it down. You have to make a plan. You have to appoint caregivers. And if you say to me, Deborah, I don't know anybody, I'll say you're absolutely right. It is something you really have to take the time to look for. I'm moving from New York to North Carolina. So Sally and I are currently making plans for caregivers who are nearby and who, we'll always be each other's backup far away, but it'll take me 10 hours to get to Sally and vice versa. So we need to make backup plans. And then once you appoint caregivers, you have to address the needs of the pet. And that's different from making a plan because the plan is the overarching plan. Each pet has its own idiosyncrasies that you have to address. And that's why you need to address each and every need of that pet. And finally, if you make the plan, you appoint caregivers, you address all the needs of the pet. If you don't tell people that you've made this plan, then you know what? It's never going to come to fruition. So make sure that you tell everyone about this plan. And because we're in COVID and because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or today, or actually last Sunday, you really need to make sure that you have a plan in place. So before I check in with everyone, I want to check in to tell you that I have just closed on a house in North Carolina. It was lovely. It's wonderful. My son Drew and I are here. My husband was coming. However, he decided to carry too much down the staircase and lost his footing and fell. And the good news is that he didn't kill himself, which he clearly could have. But he did break his shoulder. So before I left for North Carolina, I had to make an emergency room visit. He didn't read the plans. He didn't read the plan that said no emergency room visits before we get on the road. He's home safely in New York with the blizzard coming, and I'm quietly ensconced in the new house in North Carolina where it's 70 degrees and clearing up after torrential rain. But these are the plans you need to make. If we had had all sorts of plans put in place for the dogs, or if we hadn't had all plans put in place for the dogs, we would have had to make sure we had plans because I was in the hospital with him in the emergency room for 4.5 hours before he got home at noontime. So it really is important to understand that life changes on a dime. And I know we all believe that somebody's going to be there to take care of our pets, but that isn't always the case. And you really need to make that plan and appoint those caregivers and have redundancy. So I just wanted to let all of you know that when I moved to North Carolina for good, which I'll still be in New York for a while and move to, I will have already in place all my vet care, all my caregiver care, because I'm going to start walking Roxy and making sure, or walking myself. She's not coming yet. Walking myself around the neighborhood and introducing myself to the neighbors. So I know if there's any other dogs, I know the next door neighbor has a golden retriever already. Maybe it's a yellow lab. I didn't see it too closely. So I know there are dog friendly people here, and I will introduce myself the way I did during COVID, which we talked about weeks ago, which was I put 3x5 cards in everybody's mailbox saying if something happens to you, I will be happy to take care of your dog while you are away. And give me directions. And so that's how I do the entree on, and will you take care of my dogs if something happens to me? So we really do need to be proactive. So without further ado, I would love to check in with everyone. Sally, how's everything going?
Well, as you know, we have a blizzard coming. We're predicted to have 20 inches here, but not a flake yet. But it's very, very cold, and the dogs are walking with jackets and little boots on. So we're prepared.
Well, it's coming your way because it just started snowing, 45 minutes south of you at my house. So it's coming your way. The driveway is covered. I've been checking on the ring, which are those cameras, and I see that it's coming now. So be careful, stay safe. And I know the girls are going to have fun tomorrow in their coats. You won't out in the snow. Well, yes, you will, because you like snow too, but it'll be cold. So stay safe, and hopefully electricity will stay on, because they're saying that snow is going to be pretty heavy.
Yes, hopefully we'll keep power.
Yep. I will tuck you in my prayers. Connie, how are you, honey?
Just great. I hesitate to tell you that we're freezing here with a high of 60 degrees, but it is down in the low 40s in the morning. And my three little Wheatons, Kieran from Misty, Ireland, although they're all Southern California kids, went out and made the fastest pee and poop in creation this morning, and they were banging on the back door, "Mom, let me in." So at any rate, it is chilly. Out in the desert, it was down to 30 degrees first thing this morning. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I have a lot of
my son must be happy he's here, because he's in 70-degree weather, sweating his butt off with me as we're, moving all sorts of boxes and things. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, tell him it's quite chilly in LA.
All right.
So
I will.
So we're appropriately attired. But the bad news for where we are here, even though the weather is good, is that we are down to just about 0 ICU bed capacity in Los Angeles County.
Oh my God.
As of last night, largest county population-wise in the United States, we are down to almost 0% ICU bed capacity. Last night on the 5 o'clock news, they said we were down to only 56 beds open, and I'm sure it's way, way down today. My BFF, also a Wheaton breeder, who lives in the desert where it was 30 degrees, said that Riverside County, where she lives, is actually down at zero beds. Nothing is open. And she's out in the Palm Springs area, and there's a huge senior community there, of course. So it is not good at all.
And I wondered how those people, if they had pets, they're making plans for their pets. I haven't seen them on this program, so I'm hopeful they listen to it as a recording, because it really is a snowball effect. It really takes everyone to make sure that the pets are cared for. You don't do it thoughtlessly. You really don't. You just don't think about it until it's maybe too late. And that's why we've all been here since late March, early April, talking about why it is you need to make a plan for your pet in these days of COVID. It really is difficult. And I have to tell you that my mask is on me all the time. And my son, Drew, who drove cross country from California to get here, wears a mask when he's with me, even in the house. And I wear my mask as well, because he said, "Mom, it's really not smart. We have to be smart, and we have to make sure." And I have to tell you that I love all my friends in North Carolina, but there is like no masks on anybody except in the stores. Maybe most people, I'm not sure, but their nose is out. It's funny, because today I was talking to two of the people who are going to come and help us with our new house. And they said, "Yeah, North Carolina's been really good. We haven't shut down." And I'm like, "Yeah, North Carolina's been really good, because you don't realize what's coming, but okay, good for you." So I walked in today to return the U-Haul truck, and the guy, I was saying to him, "I'm here to return my U-Haul truck." And I had my mask on. He goes, "I can't hear you." And of course he didn't have a mask on. And they said, "I'm here to return my U-Haul truck." I wasn't going to take my mask off. I'm sorry. I'm just not going to do it. And I am absolutely buying every bottle of hand sanitizer that I can find. So every time I go in or out of anywhere, I hand sanitize, and hopefully we'll be great. So I'm sorry that you're freezing. I told my husband, who's home with the broken shoulder, that in fact, I wish I was there. And he goes, why would you want to be here? And I said, because I love snow. And this is my last blizzard, I'm sure. I'm very sad.
Before we leave the subject of North Carolina, you, of course, are now in the state with the working headquarters of the American Kennel Club. And
Yeah.
you might want to pay them a little visit, because I've been getting all kinds of reports from East Coast Wheaton people and also Facebook friends in the dog community that 2 judges down at Orlando tested positive. One of them collapsed unconscious on his flight home.
Yep.
Bernie had to take him off the plane. He is on a ventilator now.
Yep.
The other one has mild symptoms, but God knows how many.
And they
people
both
were
went to
exposed.
the judges symposium. So
Yes.
it really is frightening. And it was interesting because I have a client who was suspended. Not that this matters to anyone on the call, but I will tell you quickly. I had a client who was suspended, who was told she couldn't go because she was suspended, and no one who isn't in the judges symposium or competing were allowed in. However, we took pictures of all the people who were there, who were not competing and were not at the judges symposium. One gentleman was watching in the 6-foot space with the red line inside. One woman was walking her grandchild around. So we're talking people coming in from the outside. So I intend to have a little bit of a discussion with people there, absolutely, because this was unnecessary. This was really unnecessary. And as you know, Connie, I had 2 friends who were there doing the Be Live. And I was really worried about them because they were running to and from all over the filming industry of the AKC show. So I'm really worried about both of them because both of them might have been exposed. They're going to take COVID tests this week, but it's ridiculous. So yeah, you're right. And I intend to really start that conversation because it really has been a little bit difficult to make sure that you keep people out, but then not keep other people out. So it's really very interesting, but that's a whole nother piece of discussion that we'll have someday. So are you still in Tenerife, Kieran? And I'm sorry I missed the call for Rebound Dog today.
Yep, it was a very good discussion this evening. So
did you record it?
No.
Oh, shoot.
Don't know if it was recorded at all. Yes. We had a couple of technical difficulties at the beginning, so I'm not sure if it was recorded. But
well, tell us a little bit about it. It was supposed to be really interesting. I'll tell everyone here on the MAAP plan that the Rebound Dog is a great group of people who are thought leaders in the dog, cat, bird, horse community who really want to keep animals as pets with responsible ownership. And really make people aware of what it is they need to do in order to have a pet and keep a pet safe. So how did it go? What big ideas were you all throwing around? I know I had seen 2 or 3 of them, which was a discussion we had before. So what was the upshot, Kieran?
There's a lot of discussion on the puppy mills, the puppy farms.
Yeah.
And how to stop them. And I suppose in summary, it came down again and again and again to trying to educate children.
Yeah. And have them educate their parents, because maybe that's the way to educate adults on how to have pets, because they certainly don't make enough MAAP plans that take care of the pets long-term, short-term.
Which reminds me, I wrote an article, I think about a year ago. I'll have to send it to you, Debbie. So, which sort of looked at that whole problem and why the puppy mills are such good business. Well,
I have a Why Do Pets Matter podcast coming up with Laura Reeves, Kieran, and she said that statistically, the pet statistics groups that take numbers, there is a need for 8 million dogs a year to replace attrition, dogs dying, for people who want dogs. And people like Connie and I only breed about 1 million dogs a year, the ones who really take the health tests and do everything. So to close that gap, that's a really big gap. That's, it's a huge gap. And so how do we do that responsibly? Because I don't want somebody not to get a dog if they want to live with a dog. As we found during COVID, living with a pet is phenomenal, and helps you. They're your lifesaver and your lifeline. However, we have to make sure that they are bred in a thriving environment, and they are kept by people who are responsible owners.
And the
Yeah.
problem now during COVID too is there are reputable breeders who are breeding, but very few. And of course, one of the big worries is people coming into your home to look at your litter. But the other big reason when I counsel people who contact me, because I'm on our National Breed Club's breeders list, I always say, have you thought about the fact that when you bring your cute little darling Wheaton home, and this is after telling them I have no breeding plans for the foreseeable future. Have you thought about when you bring your cute little Wheaton home, you cannot take him or her out after it's had its permanent shots to socialize, to run to the pet store, to buy dog food with you, or to go to the park, or, God forbid, go to puppy manners class and later obedience class, because all our obedience clubs are all shut down.
Yeah.
So there
Except
are
in a
no
few
resources.
states here. A few states that still allow it, or allow some of the private, because I know Sarah Hodgson here in New York is doing private lessons, but that's expensive. So how many people can really afford that? But that's a cost you should factor in if you want a well-socialized dog.
Right.
It's all a cost, and it's all what you want to do and what kind of dog you want at the end of the year. Because as Connie and I will tell you, if you don't work the first 9 months you have the dog, because usually the breeders keep it till they're 2 or 3 months old, you're lost if you don't make sure that you have the pets trained before that. Dogs, Wheatons are barking. But Kieran, so the upshot of that was to stop puppy mills or to educate puppy mills?
No, it was mostly to educate children and their parents, and that
Yes.
it was
Because the other flip of that coin is this is a cash crop for people, and I know that Marty Greer has done a phenomenal job going into the Amish groups.
Yes.
And talking to them about the fact that she understands it's a cash crop. She understands that they're not going to have the dogs or cats or whatever they're breeding be family pets in their family, in their lives, but they do like to cater to the people who want these pets in their lives. So she gives them tips on how to select for health and hereditary characteristics, for how to have a cleaner situation for the mother to live in and the puppies to live in, to trade off the breeding of males not to their sisters and brothers or whatever. So she's doing a job of getting the educating that side. So we can educate at Rebound, we can really educate the buyer, not to necessarily just beware, but to really understand I have to tell you, I have a friend who wanted a Vizsla. She couldn't get one. She waited since March. So she ended up with a Texas Blue Lacy, which I think might be a cross between a Weimaraner and a Labrador, because they come in beige, black, blue, and some other color. And they look like a Labrador with yellow eyes. So all of us wouldn't say that that's necessarily something we'd like, but they have a Texas Blue Lacy club. They support their owners, and she got a dog right away. And I think that's the issue, is that we don't have the number of dogs we need from people who want to mentor, who want to be responsible owners, and people want dogs. They really do. And so how do we meet that need in a way that doesn't put the animals in terrible situations? And probably, Kieran, that was the upshot of the call. We'll educate children. They don't necessarily have to buy or get a dog from a shelter. At least in my realm, I want people to get the dog that's going to fit their lifestyle, because it has a better success of staying in the home. I mean, if you get a terrorist like a Wheaton, and you don't like terriers, you don't like a dog that barks or that's 90 miles an hour 24/7 when they're young. Bambi might be a little slower now, but your little boy is, he's a lot of energy. Terriers are a lot of energy. Irish setters, forget it. They need a lot of exercise. They want to be up your hiney all the time. I mean, it is something that you have to understand is breed specific. And if you get a mixed breed, that's absolutely fine, but you don't have a roadmap. At least when you buy a Wheaton or you buy an Irish, it comes hopefully from a breeder who's going to give you the roadmap and be there to help you drive the bumpy trail, because the bumpy trails come. So Kieran, I don't know, what was the other upshot? Did they want people to just adopt, don't shop, or did they want everybody to be spayed and altered? Because I of course, I think I went away. I apologize. I, of course, don't really do adopt, don't shop. I do get the dog you want. So Kieran, I don't know what their upshot was. What did you think their upshot was? And I'm okay with adopt, don't shop. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people think that's a solution. And I think that if you adopt everything, fabulous. If you spay and alter everything, fabulous. And then by about year 20 from now, you won't have any dogs.
Yeah. That'd be, yeah, if you go down that route, you'd probably just increase the demand, and there's no end of gangsters ready to fill that demand.
You know,
Right.
the rescues breed the puppies. The rescues
Yeah.
come
Oh,
in and
yeah.
have litters to raise money. And you just want to, like, you're sitting there going, this is so counterintuitive, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Kieran, do you talk at all in your webinars, your seminars, your podcasts about puppy mills, puppy farms, as you call them over the pond, not testing for genetic diseases, like, for instance, we do, who are responsible breeders of purebred dogs? Because that, I mean, that's, if you're talking with children, you know, that's a heartbreaker for them to lose their beloved dog at a very young age of a horrible disease that could have been prevented if the parents had been tested.
Right. And of course, we sometimes have dogs. I mean, I've had dogs with osteosarcoma. I've had dogs with bloat, and we test. And I always tell people, you know, Irish setters bloat. It is a breed specific issue, because they're deep chested, and you have to be careful not to let them suck down water after they've run or pant a lot. I mean, boys notoriously bloat when a girl is in season in their vicinity and they're huffing and puffing, they will bloat. So you have to be aware and tell people about this. So the hybrid dogs, the mixed breed dogs, may or may not carry that genetic plan with them, but they may, and you might not know because you don't know what's behind them. But if you get a dog from a rescue that is sort of a purebred, it looks like a Chow Chow, or it looks like an Irish, or it looks like a Wheaton, it does behoove you, especially when you're making plans for your pet, to talk to that breed and ask them, what are the things that I might want to consider or worry about when I've adopted this dog? You know, I talk to bull terrier people all the time, and I say to them, you know, the MAAP plan is sort of something you need to do without question, because a cute little Wheaton will be like Bama. She's an older girl, cute little Wheaton. She'll be adopted because she's a cute little girl. And even the little boy will be really cute and be adopted. Pit bulls have so many strikes against them. Maybe you won't get insurance for your house. You know, maybe your landlord won't let you have it. Maybe your neighbors are afraid of it. So when you have those kind of dogs and you own them and you love them and you think they're great, if you don't make a long-term plan for them, you really are risking their life to a greater degree than Connie or I if we don't make a plan.
And one thing we do in breed rescue here, our Wheatons have 2 protein-losing genetic diseases that, fortunately, we've been working very hard with the University of Pennsylvania Vet School and a lot of other vet schools across the United States to eradicate, and we are eradicating it in our breeding program. And I am happy to say I have a genetically clear breeding program. But when we take a Wheaton into rescue, who is 99.9% of the time from a commercial source, in other words, a puppy mill, the first thing we do is we take them to the vet, and all it takes is a cheek swab or a blood draw, and we send it off and get the dog tested either at Penn Vet or one of the other vet schools that does the genetic testing. But Penn Vet has been working with us since 1995, and really, you know, cracked when the canine genome was cracked in 2008. One of the first things they did was to look at PLE and PLN, and so we are able to, even with our rescue dogs, tell if this is a genetically healthy dog or not.
Yep.
And
Yep.
if you get a purebred, now that the genome is cracked for the canine, a lot of other breeds can test for their specific genetic diseases. For instance, degenerative myelopathy, which really attacks corgis and attacks a
And
lot of other
Dobermans
breeds,
too, right?
and ours too.
Yeah.
We're testing for DM now. You can do that cheek swab. That's it. And
Well, we
it's
have PRA, and we have a test now that we can
Right.
test for PRA. We used to have to breed and then test the puppies, and some of the puppies would go blind when they were 2 or 3
right.
because everybody was a carrier. Now
Right.
we have a test, so we don't have to do that. So the benefits are far outweigh the drawbacks. And yes, there are purebred dogs that have maladies. What you have to understand is what are the maladies of that purebred dog, and what do I have to watch for? And I know. So this is my lawyer part coming out. Sorry, everyone, but you can't guarantee almost anything. You can test. You can show generations of nothing occurring. But if you go outside your pedigree, which sometimes has hybrid vigor and you need to do, then you start all over again, in my opinion. Mutts, definitely, even the Labradoodles and the Golden Doodles and the I had somebody who wanted to do an Irish Doodle.
God.
Yeah, they wanted to do an Irish Doodle, and I said, I just don't know that even if we got all the good tests on my Irish and she passed or he passed, and you got all the good tests on your poodle, I said, going together, there might just be something that doesn't work really well.
Right.
And Kieran, you know this from your experience with the rescues and with the puppy mills. Those are some of the hottest dogs on the face of the earth. Cavachons and Yorkshires, which is a Dockshire. It's a Dachshund and a Yorkshire together. I mean, what a bastardization of, excuse my expression, I'm cursing on my own group. How do you do that? But people love to have them because usually, I mean, puggles are very cute when they're babies. I don't find them to be very attractive when they're older, but they're very cute when they're babies. And so I think when we talk about puppy mills, we have to talk about, as you absolutely put correctly, children learning how to take care of pets long term, whether it's a purebred or a mixed breed, taking care of the dog long term, because really it's making a commitment to a dog and being responsible and accountable to that dog for the rest of its life. And so if you get a Wheaton, that's like 15 years. If you get an Irish, that's
At
like 10
least.
years. Yeah, that's like 10 years. So this is a long-term commitment. It isn't, oh God, after 8 years, my kids went off to college and I don't want to take care of the dog anymore. No, that's not. So it's the kids and then the parents, and then it's the breeders, even the puppy millers, who have to be held responsible for taking the right tests for their pets that they're considering breeding. And, there is no real oversight because, as it is probably in the UK as it is here, it's under the agriculture law. So they are a crop, and there are certain rules and regulations. It's interesting. New Jersey just passed a law where they are going to appoint an advocate for a dog or a cat
I saw
who's
that.
the subject of any sort of abuse. And the AKC was adamantly against that because they said that it takes, the ability of the owner to really decide what's best for its pet. And they said, well, the only reason this came about was because the owners weren't, and Kieran, you know this, the owners weren't taking into account the best interest of their pets. And they aren't out there having a conversation about what is in the best interest of their pets. They're dropping them off. So what are your thoughts, Kieran?
Yeah, I suppose just speaking from experience of the last couple of years, I think I suppose the starting point would be the timeline to make changes is going to be a very, very slow one. You know, that even with the best of luck and everything going right, 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. And that's really tough because there's a lot of dogs born within those 5 or 10 years who
Yeah,
are not going to
yeah.
benefit from having that responsible ownership test.
Now, there was something that came up tonight, and I thought it was quite interesting. There's a lady called Joanna Aqua. I don't know if have you come across her?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think she's an influencer in the YouTube world, amongst others. And she had a very interesting point, which was videos, possibly what animation videos aimed at children might get the quickest result in the fastest time. Now that's an area I haven't even looked at, but
Yeah.
we've done, you know, on the course we did everything right with the videos. The whole idea is that videos shouldn't be longer than 2 minutes, otherwise people just switch off.
Right.
So the whole course is actually put together and with 2-minute videos, backed by text and backed by links to either PDFs or articles or whatever. So everything is in there, but it's you know, it's sort of like a pyramid. You have 2 minutes for your video and then an extra minute for your reading if you need it, and then behind all that there's the base. But I think with the children, that's a whole different project. But I think she's dead right, and that's what I'm going to
I think
probably
she
look
is
at.
too. I think
Yeah,
kids
yeah,
love to, and you know what really catches my interest, and I'd love to hear from Sally or from Connie, the stick figure videos that are like 2 minutes long that tell a story about something.
yeah.
Usually it's business oriented or something for me, or it's conflict oriented. And I've been thinking of doing the same thing, doing some stick figure animated videos to make sure that people understand what I do. And so I think she's right. And there are those Dooley, Dooley here in the United States that does that. And so if we're talking about, you know, to wrap this up, if we're talking about making sure that children are educated before they get a pet, and that they help educate their parents before the parents get a pet for them, because this is a long-term commitment. The underlying thought process is, and I did this when I had my my group Pet Network Incorporated. I would sit down and talk to people about what the short-term, long-term goal is for the pet. And I think that's probably what you all discussed was, you know, the short-term goal is I'll have a companion during the terrible times of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
But the long-term goal is that the dog or cat are not going to conveniently exit stage left if your life changes. And if you need to place them because of your life changing, if you make a plan now when you're not scrambling, then the best laid plans for them will come about, as opposed to not making any plans. And I was speaking to someone today about, you know, a lot of the cats that are found out in the community are cats that people had to move, couldn't find a home for them, and they left them with a community of cats who are feral, which is like almost a death sentence for a domesticated cat that's lived with people, because A, they don't know how to fend for themselves. They, you know, they say, well, they have their claws, they'll be okay. No, they won't. And so I think that, you know, everyone who gets a pet needs to make sure that they take the time to understand what that commitment is, which is why Kieran's here almost every week. And I'm so grateful, because he really is putting together a responsible ownership test, which you really, it's sort of my pet network taken to the next level, where I did tell you, well, this is what your commitment to this pet is. And if you're not willing to make that commitment as a family, not as a, you know, if you're a one person, that's fine. But if you're a family, getting a dog for your family, it's a family commitment, because that dog isn't going anywhere. It's going to be there for a while.
In fact, I will tell you, Karen, that when I am interviewing people for one of my pups and they have kids, I always have the kids come to see the puppies, and I always have at least 2 visits, you know, with a family that I'm interested in, that I think would make a good home. But I always say to the parents, you understand that you are the owner of the dog. This is not your kid's dog. This is your dog. And the dog is going to depend for its entire well-being, its life on you, not your child. And unless I get a very affirmative, oh, absolutely, that puppy does not go home with that family.
Yeah, and it's really tough because once they come, it's really tough to make sure that you are strong and don't let dogs go home with people who they shouldn't go home with. And in rescues and in shelters, they do a good job of screening. But on another one of our maps, maybe next week or the in the new year, I'd love to talk with you, Kieran, and with you, Connie, and Sally. Jump right in there because I know you do a lot of work with rescues in Connecticut. There are a lot of people who have huge pushback from people telling them what to do or how they need to do it. They had a dog when they were younger. They know how to take care of the dog. Please don't tell me, and I'm not going to buy a dog from you. I'm going to go to a puppy mill because you know what? They sell it to me with no strings. They don't check me out. I said this weeks ago, I think, that I had a guy who said, listen, I was going to go and pay full price for a dog from a top breeder. And they kept saying to me, well, we're only selling it on co-ownership. And of course, that's the only way I sell my dog. So I understood what he meant. We're only doing this. And he goes, I just wanted to buy my dog like I buy my car. I don't own my car with the car dealership. I own my car outright. And I said, well, I get it. I said, no, I let people walk because they want to own the dog outright. But if you own the dog outright, then the breeder has very little say of how you use that dog going forward. And so coming back to Kieran's discussion, what happens if the people start breeding the dog? Well, they know it's a purebred Irish setter. They know it's a purebred Wheaton, and people don't care if they pay $500 for a dog without papers. Look at the pedigree of this dog. It has champions up the wazoo, down the paper.
Right.
So Kieran, you're absolutely right. It's education, but it's education of the adults too. And it's education about why it is that you might want a certain size, a certain temperament, and a certain mentorship from people who've been in the breed. And as mentors and breeders, we have to be a little kinder and gentler with our new owners, or the people who are coming to get the dog, because the woman who bought the Texas Blue Lacy was told by someone in the breed, the Vigilas, that she wouldn't sell her a Vigila because she's never had one before. Well, that's got to be the stupidest way to maintain a love of that breed I've ever heard. Because somebody has to someday sell me an Irish setter for me to love Irish setters the way I love them, right? Somebody had to sell me one. I wasn't born with an Irish setter. I wasn't born with any dogs. So when we talk about what Kieran's doing, which is great, and we talk about what Connie and I are doing, holding up these Irish breeds, when we talk about what Sally's doing, helping people who are working rescue and shelters to really educate people, that's what we're doing here at the MAAP plan. Because quite frankly, if you make a MAAP plan, your dog will not be part of the shelter community because you've made a plan. And if you get a dog from a puppy mill and it has issues, the best thing to do is to try to find out, what breed it is, do a DNA. And if it comes up mostly Chihuahua, call the Chihuahua Club of America and ask them for their health statistics, or read the website and know their health statistics, because that's likely the trouble you're going to have with your dogs. And if we can educate people, and we can make sure that we, Kieran, it's my nightmare because of my mediation background. My brain is bouncing back and forth between, but it's got to be okay because this is the way these people have made a living for years. It's how they heat their home and feed their children. So if we're going to take that away from them, we need to figure out how we're going to help them take care of themselves. And otherwise they go underground and the dogs are worse cared for. That's probably not a sentence, but I'm just going to say they're cared for in a less advantageous manner if we make it onerous to do. So we have to figure out how to shift the paradigm. And maybe the animation is the way to do it, Kieran.
Yeah. It's now those things are very quick to go underground. Very quick.
You start pissing them off and questioning them, and they go underground deeper into the forests. I mean, I know that Connie and I know that in Kansas and in Kentucky and in Missouri and in Oklahoma, those things go underground in a nanosecond. So,
Ohio
well,
is riddled with puppy mills.
oh, absolutely.
It's incredible.
Yep, it is. So as we wrap up tonight, I'm so glad all of you are here. I'm so glad we had such a great conversation, because if you are getting a dog, or if you're thinking about getting a dog, you need to make a MAP plan. And that MAP plan will really be based on whether or not you have backup in a breeder, or you have backup. I mean, always ask the person you buy your dog from whether or not they will take your dog back if something happens. You might not want it to go back, but if that's your last ditch effort, it's certainly better than dropping it off in a shelter. And really take the time to understand what they've done to provide you with the dog that you're going to spend the next 15 years of your life with. What tests they've done, what nurturing they've done in the litter box, because the nurturing in the litter box cuts, and Connie will bear this out, cuts your training by at least 50 to 75%. If they don't have the nurturing and the rolling over and all the things we do in the whelping box, you are going to have one heck of a time with the naughty children.
And also the length of time that the pup remains with not only its mom, but its siblings.
Yep.
And learns one of the problems with puppy mills is that as soon as the puppy is weaned, typically
5 weeks.
5 weeks old, they're off the mom. And the mom says to you, oh, I've got to take this call. Sorry.
That's right. I'll finish your thought. So what happens at 5 weeks is the mother teaches the puppy respect for its elders, and its siblings respect for siblings. And if you take the dogs away at 5 weeks to give them away, that's a problem. So until next time, Kieran, I'm so glad you were here. I wish you had taped that call, because I would have loved to have heard it. Shoot me a little text with everybody's name or something who was there, and I'll talk to Spencer. Everyone who was here on tonight's call and who are listening to it as a recording, I'm so grateful you're here. I will be here next Wednesday, December 23rd. I will be back here, I believe, in North Carolina, or I'll be driving. Who knows what I'll be doing. I'll keep you posted. You guys all take care of your pets, and I will see you next week. Until then, make a MAP plan for your pets. This is Deborah Hamilton of Hamilton Law Mediation, and please listen to the podcast, Why Do Pets Matter? And comment. I'd appreciate to hear what you think. Good night, Sally. Good night, Connie, and good night, Kieran. It's great to see you.
Nice.
Take care. Bye.